Welcome back to another episode of Sean and Ed's Do Baseball. I'm Sean.
And I'm Ed.
And we're doing baseball history.
That's right. We're a bi-weekly baseball history podcast where the story catcher doesn't know what the story pitcher is out on the mound throwing them.
That's right. That's right. I got no idea what Eds will be tossing today. Hopefully it'll be over the plate. And we'll make our own history today. But before we start, Edsy, where can people find us if they want to find us on the internet?
People can find us on the internet, various platforms of social media, at Doing Baseball or at Doing.Baseball. If you're looking for us, you can find us at one of those two handles. It should lead you in the right direction.
That's right. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much. Give us a follow, give us a review, give us a rating. Let us know if you have any story ideas that we haven't covered yet. And as always, thanks for listening, and thank you to our sponsor, Two Loons Brewing. Brewed right here. Brewed, of course, right here.
Sean's enjoyed a few Two Loons before recording, clearly.
Yeah, well, it's basically Canada Day at this point, Etsy. So, by the time people are hearing this, it'll be post-Canada Day. But this summer, this July, go grab yourself a Two Loons. Check them out at twoloonsbrewing.com. You can check them out on Instagram as well at Two Loons Brewing, where you can check out all the latest stuff and whatnot. And, of course, when you enjoy your Two Loons,
please be of legal drinking age and, of course, enjoy responsibly. As Sean takes a sip here.
Yeah. All right, Edsy. You ready to pitch a story?
Yeah, I'm ready to get back on the mound after two back-to-back episodes by you. I guess I had it back-to-back just before that with our Christy Pitts story, but anyway, I digress.
Yeah, we don't have a rotation here. It's just whoever's ready with the story.
Yeah. Anyways, I guess if you're ready to get going, I'm ready to get going here.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, well, Sean, buckle up for this one because we're about to dive into a story of a man whose name sounds like a medieval wizard and whose temper could have powered a steam engine.
Good old Angry Gone. Wizard man.
Yeah. I give you Silver King.
Oh my, yes. He sounds like a pirate.
Yeah.
I always got pirate from Silver King, but wizard there could be a wizard named Silver King.
Yeah. All right. 1867. Charles Frederick Koenig was born in St. Louis, Missouri, a town known back then for three things: beer, bricks, and German immigrants shouting at each other in the baseball dugouts.
Love it.
Now,
they made brick. I love the bricks, beer, and baseball. They were into alliteration.
Yes.
The Germans were very organized.
Yes. Now, in some etymological history here, Koenig is German for king. So that's where we get king there. And someone somewhere decided that Silver King was catchier than White Harold Chuck from Soulard. And
What?
That's where he was from. He was from the Soulard neighborhood of St. Louis. And thank goodness for that. It sounded majestic, like a dude who should be riding a horse into battle instead of hurling baseballs at terrified 19th century batters. And of course, his nickname came from his shocking mop of silvery white hair, which combined with his ruddy complexion made him look like a salmon fillet with anger issues.
Did you write these or find these?
I found some of them. Yes.
Okay.
So
I love
the Koenig family was your classic immigrant success story. Dad was a bricklayer who eventually became a contractor, which meant young Charlie was built like a brick shithouse, barrel-chested, gorilla arms, and hands the size of catcher's mitts.
Oof.
Which was good, because that's what you needed to survive baseball back then. That and possibly a death wish. By his late teens, Silver was chucking heat in the local amateur leagues of St. Louis, and it didn't take long for people to notice. First for his pitching, second for the fact that he resembled a Viking who got lost in Missouri. By 1885, he was suiting up for a semi-pro team called the Jacksonville Blues in Illinois, a club that sounds more like a failed blues rock band than a ball team, but it was there that Silver started to shine. Now here's where it gets fun. In 1886, at just 19, he followed a couple of baseball buddies, Jack O'Connor and Patsy Tebow, to St. Joseph, Missouri, to play for the Reds in the Western League. This was the inaugural season of the Western League. So, just like that, he went from tossing amateur heat to becoming the league's crack pitcher, which, just to clarify, if you don't know, that means like the top-notch pitcher.
The top notch?
Yeah.
Crack?
Yeah.
The crack of the whip?
I guess so. I'm not really sure what that metaphor was. It is very commonly used in newspapers back then, I've found, in a lot of the research I've done for other stories. But anyway, it means the top-notch pitcher, not chemically dependent, which we can't say the same for all 1880s ball players, obviously.
No. And definitely something where the word would take on a new meaning 100 years later, that's for sure.
Yes, that's true. By the end of the season, every team in the big leagues was foaming at the mouth to sign him. Chicago, Philadelphia, Louisville, you name it. But in true King fashion, he zigged when others zagged and signed with the Kansas City Cowboys instead.
What? Okay.
Have you ever heard of the Kansas City Cowboys?
No, what league were they in?
They were in the National League. I'd never heard of them either, but they were in the National League. It says here, the National League had allowed them to join their ranks on a trial basis.
Okay.
Because they were just, the league was kind of obviously in its infancy at this time, and teams were popping up here and there, and they were saying, you can exist for a bit. We'll see how it goes. And anyway,
this is 1886.
Yes, 1886.
Okay.
So, but the Cowboys were so bad that they were politely asked to leave the league after just one season.
They just sucked, and they were like, nah, you're not National League quality.
Yes, exactly. So Silver debuted late that season, on September 28th of 1886, and the very first thing the New York Tribune noticed wasn't his pitching, it was the fact that he moved like a caffeinated marionette. They said, quote, he acts like a jumping jack. Which I'm not really sure what they mean by that, but anyway.
So he's just on the field, like on a coffee high, just shaking, ready to go. Maybe he's just into it.
Yeah.
He's just excited.
Yeah. Which, these were not ideal for intimidation purposes, but he did throw a 6-hitter in his debut. Which is, it's not too bad. So, what does the New York Tribune know? Anyway, as I kind of been alluding to, physically, Silver was a monster. He was 6 feet tall, which was pretty huge for the time.
Jeez.
And 100.
He said he had mitts.
Yeah, he was a big boy because, as I talked about, he'd worked with his father. I think I mentioned it again later on, but he worked with his father as a bricklayer. So, 180 pounds of raw Missouri brick throwing power and hands so big they could smother a baseball. It was around this time that people started calling him Silver, which, as I mentioned, was way cooler than Charlie. And if we're honest, that would look pretty badass on the back of a baseball jersey.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Cowboys were not a team built to last. They went 30-91.
Went 30-91?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So we're talking like just below a 25% win. That's still, if you haven't heard our Medicine Hat Blue Jays episode, that's still better than them, but oof, that's bad.
That's still not very good. So as I mentioned, they got the boot from the National League, and their players were sold off.
Okay.
And the St. Louis Brown Stockings owner, Chris Vonder Aha, part baseball magnate, part vaudeville act. Listen to the Dollop episode if you don't know about that. It's a 2-part episode. So Vonder Aha swooped in to snag Silver at the recommendation of Browns official and sports writer George Munson, who proclaimed King one of the, quote, speediest pitchers in the country. I assume that means on the base paths, but I didn't really look into that. But it could be.
He throws it fast.
Okay.
He's speedy. They don't have cars. Speed is different to them.
I guess so. So in 1887, Silver landed on a team that would change everything, the St. Louis Browns, who I believe eventually became the Cardinals.
But then there was also the Browns.
Yes.
For a while. Yeah. So
they eventually came back, yeah.
They eventually came back.
Anyway, I think that was mentioned in our episode with Justin McKinney that the Brown Stockings eventually grew into the Cardinals, but then they were brought back in the 20th century, maybe 30 or 40 years later.
Yeah.
Anyway, the St. Louis Browns at this time were then the Titans of the American Association and were managed by a 27-year-old first baseman named Charles Comiskey.
Ooh.
Yes, that Comiskey. They were loud. What's that?
No, I'm just saying, yes, that Comiskey of White Sox fame.
Yes, that's right. They were loud, cocky, and just the right kind of unhinged for Silver's vibe. Now, in 1887, it was a weird year for baseball rules, and pitchers were throwing from 50 feet away.
Oh, damn.
In a box that was basically a chalk rectangle in the dirt. And walks were counted as hits. Batters got 4 strikes. And the ball, as we kind of know from some of our dead ball era episodes, was basically like a soggy rock.
Yeah. And you're right, by the way. Totally right about the whole Cardinals thing.
Yeah.
Didn't want to back you up on that. I was like a little worried. I was like, oh no. You're 100% right.
Okay, thank you. Still, Silver held his own. In his first game, a 19-6 win over Cincinnati, he pitched well, but reportedly stepped away from the plate every time that he batted.
Okay.
So he was a little timid in the box, but, could you really blame him for being slightly afraid of getting clobbered? I mean, it was basically a war zone at that time. Pitchers are thrown from 50 feet. It's a little sketchy.
The ball's all weird and misshapen, and and also he's the opposing pitcher. Like he's worried about. He
true.
Needs to pitch. He doesn't want to get hurt.
That's true.
But I guess he's stepping in the bucket. He's like bailing out of the box anytime the ball comes in.
Yeah, exactly. The Browns were stacked. They had Dave Fouts and Bob Carruthers, who were 2 of the best pitchers in the league and great hitters. But Silver, not so much, as I just mentioned. He wasn't a great hitter. The man hit 198 for his career, which would have made him a Little League legend in some circles, but back then it was just embarrassing. He didn't play the field, he didn't hit, and basically made himself useful only when throwing 90 miles per hour crossfire fastballs into people's souls.
He's just a pitcher.
Yeah.
He's one of the original guys that's just like, I'm just here to throw the ball.
Yeah, exactly. So still, the team won 95 games and steamrolled their way to the pennant, and Silver went 32-12 with 390 innings pitched. Yeah. But oddly enough, that was only good enough to be considered the third head of the Browns' three-headed pitching hydra.
Ooh, 3 pitchers. That's rich for that time, too.
Yeah, that is true. I never really thought about that, but yeah.
Well, no, you'd have your main guy, and then the as we know in like the old Haas Radburn episodes, and a few Pud Galvin, like a lot of the times you'd just you'd have your other guy. You just have 2.
What we're getting at is Von der Aha was a visionary.
Oh yeah, so he has 3 good pitchers. You're telling me?
Yes. Silver even tossed a shutout and a near no-hitter against the New York Metropolitans, which made the local papers jump for joy. And then came I'm not sure how you pronounce this, the Dovray Cup? The Dovray Cup?
Okay.
You heard about this?
No, how do you spell it?
Dauvray.
Dovray?
Dovray?
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
Well, let's get off this.
Sure.
Which is a weird postseason series cooked up by Von der Aha to play the best of the National League. So it was like kind of a pre-World Series, so to speak. So
/ like All-Star game?
Kind of, yeah, I guess so.
Sure.
So they were playing the best of the National League, who were the Detroit Wolverines.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And they played them in a 15-game, 9-city barnstorming extravaganza. It was baseball meets the circus. And speaking of circuses, the Wolverines absolutely flattened the Browns.
Oof.
King got torched in 2 of his starts and earned the flattering title of, quote, poorest of the Browns pitchers.
It goes with that alliteration again.
Yeah. So I built him up there, and they tore him down.
Yeah.
But he got his first taste of October baseball, even if the taste was mostly bitter. So, for the next season of 1888, Silver King became the guy in St. Louis.
Oh.
Because Dave Fouts and Bob Crothers, who I mentioned earlier, were the 1-2 punch. Von der Aha had sold them off like slightly used horses to the Brooklyn Bridegrooms because they lost the 1887 postseason, and to Von der Aha, that just would not do.
But he kept his rookie, who also sucked in this series.
I know. It doesn't make sense. So it's basically like, if your team finishes second and then the owner responds by holding a garage sale on the entire rotation.
Oof.
So those 2 guys got
Marlins.
Pretty much, yeah.
97 and 2003 Marlins.
Exactly, yeah, without the win. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so Silver, who was barely 21, became the ace by default, and holy cow did he rise to the occasion. That year, King didn't just pitch a lot, he dominated the entire American Association like it was a personal grudge match. And I guess he did probably feel like he had something to prove.
Yeah, sure.
And he also maybe didn't want to leave his hometown, so he was like, I better fucking pitch good.
Yeah.
So he compiled 45 wins, 64 complete games.
What?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
He's the only guy there, so.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what? No, yeah, it's him.
Yeah. So 584 and 2/3 innings pitched and a 1.63 ERA.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How many? I'm looking up how many games they played this year. Is it 88 or 89?
1888.
Yeah, so they're only playing, about 130 something games. So like half of the games he's pitching the whole game.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. So as I say right here, these are numbers that make modern day analytics folks pass out from overexertion. But he wasn't just throwing meatballs. And this was a time where they were not throwing with a lot of heat. I'm not sure if this was the time. I think this was after where batters were able to specify what part of the zone they wanted to pitch in. But anyway, Silver had what they called a crossfire delivery, which is basically baseball code for something weird and probably terrifying, at least at this time. He'd start way on the left side of the box and whip the ball across his body so it looked like it came out of a surprise dimension. Add his pale, ghostly glow and jerky marionette motion, and it's a wonder batters didn't just run away screaming.
Whoa!
Like he did when he was in the box.
So So he's a crossfire. He's a crossfire.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So he's throwing across his body. He's a little bit of a funky delivery. I'm assuming he's not throwing like all the way over the top as well. So
I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like they weren't allowed to do that yet. So
I don't think they were, but like, I'm like thinking of like Aaron Loop.
That's probably a good comparison. Yeah, forgot about Looper.
This guy's not a lefty, but like Aaron Loop had that like crossfire and like coming in from like kind of sidearm, but like it's not quite sidearm. It's 3/4 a little bit, maybe a little bit less. So. No, I don't know. I'm just picturing Aaron Loop from the right side with like a wicked mustache and silver hair.
Yeah. You probably have a pretty accurate picture of what Silver King looked like. But if 1888 was his breakout, it was also the year of Silver's colorful personality, quote unquote, started shining through.
Okay.
See, he wasn't just fiery. He was a walking mood swing with a fastball. And he had a knack for blaming his teammates, barking at the press, and alienating anyone with a uniform and a heartbeat. He didn't really want friends. He wanted wins. And as we were talking about, he got them. By July, the Browns were back in first. They swept Brooklyn in late August, and Silver single-handedly stomped on their souls by shutting them out with 2 hitters and a bizarre 1-hitter where 2 outfielders just stared at the ball like it was a UFO.
What? So, like, there's a 1-hitter where, like, the outfielders just looked at each other expecting the other to catch it, probably?
I guess so, yeah.
That's fucking crazy. That's a hell of a way to lose a 1-hitter or a no-hitter.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's just carrying the team.
Pretty much, yeah. They won the pennant again with a 92-43 record, and Silver King was the king of baseball, at least in St. Louis. So what do you do after conquering the league, Sean?
You get drunk.
Well, I'm sure you do, but you go back to the Dovray Cup, of course.
Oh yes, of course, the Dovray Cup.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. For your classic 15-game series.
Yeah, for your redemption tour in the 15-game series. And this time it was against the NL champion New York Giants, which was a team so stacked it practically oozed Hall of Famers.
Okay.
Vander Aja, in his eternal wisdom, agreed to play the first 6 games in New York. Because, nothing says home field advantage like 0 home games.
Well, it's just the first 6. I'm sure it's a ridiculously length series.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder if it's also maybe the theory is there's more money to be made in New York.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, we're getting off topic there. Silver faced off against Tim Keefe 3 times in the Polo Grounds and lost all 3 by a total of 5 runs.
Oof.
Yeah.
That didn't work out.
No, it did not. He did snag 1 win back at home in St. Louis, but the Giants took the series and the cup. And the Browns lost again.
So he's 0 for 2 in this 1880s World Series.
Yes. Yeah. Poor Silver ended with a 2-6 record in postseason play, which was not exactly legendary, but his ERA was still 2.18.
Wow.
Okay. So maybe his offense just kind of ghosted him because he was sort of a dick.
Yeah, especially you're pitching so basically he allowed 3 runs a game at most.
Yes.
And still lost.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna look at this fucking World Series. Keep talking. I'm just mad now for him as a former pitcher.
Yeah. You guys all stick together. So
of course.
So now we'll move on to 1889, which is the season of meltdowns, malaria, and mayhem.
Fucking. Thank you, Ed.
Yeah. First, Silver held out again. Salary negotiations with Von der Ahe were like a bare-knuckle boxing match inside a haunted saloon. It's a strange analogy, but he finally caved, and just a week before the season started, and he immediately took the mound in Cincinnati, where he casually threw a complete game and drove in a run because, that's how the baseball gods operate, apparently.
Sure.
And then came the rumors of a lame arm.
Ooh.
Which is how 1880s baseball described anything from tendinitis to possible arm detachment altogether. He had a few absolute clunkers, including one game where he gave up 11 earned runs in 1 inning.
Oh.
Yeah, which is, as your exclamation explains, honestly kind of impressive in its own way.
Imagine how many pitches he threw that in. That's facing minimum 14 batters, maximum 17. That is wow. Yeah.
But things got weirder. The Browns and the Brooklyn Bridegrooms were neck and neck for the pennant. And after a July series where Silver lost twice to his old teammate Carruthers, Von der Ahe accused him and third baseman Arlie Latham of throwing games for gamblers.
Ooh.
And old Chris Von der Ahe basically walked into the locker room and yelled, "Who's taking mob money?"
See, I'm just gonna. You're gonna have a good conversation. Try to get it out nice and slowly. Make them confess to what they're doing. Nah, I'm just gonna yell at them.
No, I'm just going for straight up accusations, public accusations.
Who's breaking the law?
So Silver responded the way any level-headed gentleman would, by saying that he felt like punching Von der Ahe in the face.
Sure.
So he
as you do to someone that just comes in and accuses you of something.
Yeah. So he's a bit of a hothead, and the owner suspended Latham, but not Silver.
Ah.
Which is probably because suspending your only ace in a pennant race was even dumber than lighting candles in the dugout.
There you go.
Which, funny enough, is exactly what Von der Ahe did next.
Yeah, well, of course.
So
why?
I'm going to get to that in a second. It's September 7th in 1889 in Brooklyn's Washington Park, and the Browns are leading 4-2 in the 6th inning, and it's getting dark because this is the 1880s and games were powered by daylight and hope. Comiskey asked the ump to call it, and the umps refused. So what did the Browns do? They stalled, and they lit candles on the dugout bench.
Okay.
Is
that going to help?
I'm not really sure how that helps with the lighting situation on the field, but anyway, that's what they did, and the crowd started chucking beer glasses at the flames.
I love that. That's just how the crowd reacts.
Yeah,
it's like, they lit candles. Let's throw our beers. Just every solution is let's throw our beers at it.
Yeah. A pile of paper caught fire. Somebody dropped the ball into a puddle, and Comiskey pulled the team off the field. And the ump awarded a forfeit to Brooklyn.
Okay.
The next day, Von der Ahe refused to send the team to Brooklyn's Sunday ballpark in Queens, claiming it wasn't safe.
We don't have... It's too bright out now.
Yeah, can't see. So that
well, he's saying though it's safe because the crowd threw shit at them.
I assume so. I assume that's what he's getting at.
Okay, the crowd is too hostile to play, so therefore there should be another forfeit awarded to them.
Yes, but that's not how it worked. Another forfeit was awarded to Brooklyn.
Okay.
And then Game 3 was rained out.
Oh.
The league launched an investigation and eventually reversed one of the forfeits, but the damage was done. And even though the Browns closed the season on a hot streak, Brooklyn matched them step by step and stole the pennant. So Brooklyn's got the pennant that year. Silver finished the season with 35 wins, which was second only to Carruthers, and he also threw over 450 innings, presumably while arguing with somebody at all times.
There you go. He's a hothead, but he's young and he's good.
Yeah. So now, Sean, we've reached the part of the story where Silver King, a man who already looked like he'd sue you for standing too close to him, officially declared war on baseball management.
Thank you.
The year was 1890, and the weapon was a league called the Players' League.
Hell yeah. We know the Players' League on this podcast.
Yes, we do. The Players' League sounds like something made up by kids in a gym class, but as we know from our two-part episode 20 and 21, was actually a bold labor movement that scared the top hats off the National League owners.
It probably should still be around today instead of the National League.
Yes. But due to some shady goings-on by the National League owners, it ended up collapsing. But you can listen to that episode and get a more in-depth coverage of that.
That's why I'm an AL guy. That's why I'm an AL guy.
For those unfamiliar, a bunch of ball players led by intellectual shortstop John Montgomery Ward got sick of being treated like disposable circus animals by team owners. So they said, screw it, and we'll make our own league with blackjack and stock options.
Hell yeah.
And just like that, the Players' League was born. And Silver King, still salty from being accused of throwing games and having to negotiate with Von der Aha like it was a hostage situation, jumped ship to join the Chicago Pirates, managed by none other than Charles Comiskey himself.
Fuck yeah. I will say that, once again, Silver King playing for the Pirates.
Yes. You said earlier he sounds like a pirate, but...
It is a pirate name.
He did eventually...
100% a pirate name.
Long John Silver King?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
It's just King Silver, you can mix it up even. I like the wizard though. I never thought wizard, but you're right,
Yeah,
wizard.
he does sound like a medieval wizard as well. Anyway, so the old Brown skipper, Comiskey, also flipped the bird to the baseball establishment and assembled an Avengers-style rogues gallery that included King, Jack Boyle, Arlie Latham, and Tip O'Neill. So basically, they stole half the Browns and dared Von der Aha to do something about it. The Chicago Tribune was practically swooning. They said, quote, great on paper, even greater on the field. But they finished fourth.
So that's a classic stack team that just underperforms.
Yeah, we've seen that.
I think we've seen that a few times.
Yes. So Silver, though, had himself a year, and he won 30 games, pitched 461 innings, and led the entire league in ERA with 2.69.
Oof. Well, that's great, but still seems high for him.
And it does seem a little high for the era, but anyway, he led...
No, but I'm just saying, he pitched to a 1.8 something in his second year. He pitched to a 2.3 in the World Series. It's good, it's really good, but it just seems pedestrian.
By comparison, it seems paltry. And during this stint in the Players' League, Sean, he even threw an 8-inning no-hitter.
Ooh.
Which he lost 1-0.
Fucking really?
Because of course he did. Brooklyn scored on an error and then didn't even bat in the 9th because they'd won a coin toss to bat first.
Oh, I was like, what?
I know.
Okay.
Apparently that was a thing in the Players League.
Sure.
So,
I mean, to make it more equitable for everyone, even though like some teams would just by like the flip of a coin have like 10 home games.
Yes. Yeah, I guess in theory. Yeah. A little more in-depth description of this. On June 21st, 1890, two things were certain on Chicago's south side. The Pirates were a mess, and Silver King's infield had apparently never heard of a baseball glove.
Okay.
Chicago's Pirates were supposed to steamroll the Brooklyn Ward's Wonders, who were named after their player manager and intellectual shortstop, John Montgomery Ward. But both teams were limping into this Players League showdown like wounded horses at a three-legged race. King faced off against podcast alum Gus Weighing.
Yes.
In the pitching matchup.
Second episode in a row.
Yeah. That is true. That is true.
We love Gus.
We do love Gus.
Check out the Gus episode.
That's a great one. So he faced off against Gus in the pitching matchup, and King was absolutely dealing. His fastball left batters swinging like they were blindfolded at a piñata party, but King's defense? Imagine giving kitchen knives to toddlers and asking them to juggle. That's how Chicago's left side, who was staffed by backup catchers Jack Boyle and Dell Darling, handled grounders.
Well, you got two backup catchers playing shortstop and third. I mean,
yeah. It's
so you're just so his whole like half his infield sucks is basically what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And and because of King's great pitching performance, Brooklyn didn't even manage a ball in play until a bouncer to short turned into an Olympic javelin throw past first base.
Oh.
And then there was another bunt and a single that wasn't, thanks to Hugh Duffy's cannon arm, let a runner score.
Okay.
So he's, I guess, bunting this guy over, and then Duffy, who was another backup catcher there, airmailed it over first base.
Well, it sounds like we got two overthrows that have led to like four bases when they probably should have been two outs.
Yeah, exactly. There was, I believe, if I remember correctly, King walked 3 guys during this game.
Mm-hmm. But
there were also 8 errors on defense.
Jesus. Okay.
Yes, which is just astounding.
It's atrocious.
So anyway, so there was 1 run, no hits, and somehow King was pitching the game of his life and still losing. And then, as mentioned before, in a final twist of cruel irony, Comiskey had chosen to bat first, so King's no-hit masterpiece only lasted 8 innings.
Fuck. So this man threw a no-hitter with 3 walks and 8 errors.
Yes.
Oh. I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous.
I know.
All right.
Well, that's what it says here. King became the first MLB pitcher ever to throw a no-hitter and lose. And historians call it unique, but we'll call it a cosmic joke. Newspapers roasted the infielders with adjectives which were usually reserved for malfunctioning farm equipment, and sure enough, when the real shortstop came back the next day, the Pirates magically won again.
Just in my way, I'm just like picturing a farmer looking at a tractor, just like this is fucked.
Yeah.
The Pirates' infield was fucked.
That's a modern day translation, basically.
So basically, they're just like, oh god,
yeah.
I don't know what the 1880s equivalent of swear is.
I can't think of one off the top of my head right now, but
oh my god,
anyway.
Yeah, these guys were slower than an ice box, and
that's a good example. That's a good example of what they were saying.
All right.
Okay, so 3 Hall of Famers were on that field, but for sheer absurdity, nothing topped King's heartbreaking masterpiece of futility. But despite that absurd result, as I said, he still had a fantastic season. He even outdueled Old Hoss Radburn in one matchup, and then it all imploded. The Players' League, as we know, lasted exactly one season before collapsing like a Jenga tower in a windstorm, which left Silver in limbo. And technically, his reserve rights still belong to St. Louis, but he definitely didn't want to go back to work under Vonderhaha. Not unless someone bribed him with a bricklaying contract and a personal apology.
Okay.
But so meanwhile, his old teammate Mark Baldwin, who had joined the Pittsburgh Pirates, was arrested in St. Louis for apparently tampering with Silver's contract somehow.
How?
I'm not sure. It was difficult to find information on that. But anyway, the cops got involved
Sneak into Von der A's office and just change 2,000 to 10,000.
Yeah. Anyway, eventually the Pirates coughed up $5,000 and signed King, which was the largest contract of his career.
Yeah.
And the headline in Pittsburgh said, quote, "The King is here. You can almost hear the trumpets and see the citizens throwing roses in the streets. Finally, the Steel City has its ace."
They stoked.
Yeah, they're excited. But
they're stoked.
Yeah. But
this is the first Paul Skeens.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. Too bad it didn't work out, though.
Shit.
See, Pittsburgh had just come off a season where they went 23 and 113.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That probably is worse than the 1988 Jays.
Yes. So there was nowhere to go but up, or so they thought. And Silver debuted on April 30th, 1891, but immediately started giving up bombs.
Shit.
So he's falling off a cliff.
Trend.
Yeah.
This is a trend.
Yes. The Pittsburgh papers, who were previously drunk on the King hype, quickly turned, and one wrote, quote, "The white-headed German had as much speed as an old woman throwing corn to the chickens."
That's some 1890s writing.
Yeah. But every now and then, he flashed the old brilliance. He tossed a one-hitter and a shutout in back-to-back starts in June. But still, he was fighting with his manager, accusing his teammates of loafing around, and generally treating the locker room like it owed him money. So
all right. How old is he at this point? What year is this?
This is 1891, and he was born in 1867. So he's still only like in his mid-20s.
Yeah, he's a young guy. Let me. Yeah, no, that's absolutely wild. So he's just a dick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
By September, Pittsburgh gave up, and they released King on the grounds that he refused to take a pay cut for the next season.
Ah.
So he got fired basically for not wanting a $5,000 job to become a $3,500 job.
Okay.
Which is fair enough, I guess. But his career wasn't done. The New York Giants picked him up for 1892. And how do I put this delicately? Everything immediately went to hell.
Oh.
So,
no.
Yeah. So first he debuted in a game that ended when the other team left early to catch a train.
Sure.
Baltimore left in the 6th inning. And they were like, "We gotta catch the train.
We gotta go.
The subway closes at 12:30."
I mean, once again, no cars. That's like you're like either gonna miss one game or like 5.
That's true. That's true. So the umpire declared it a forfeit win for the Giants. And the box score probably just read a W for Amtrak. Then came the clubhouse chaos. Teams couldn't stand him. And the press said he's already beginning the tactics which got him in trouble everywhere else.
He is 24.
Yes. So, the translation for that is that Silver was still Silver, grumpy, blunt, and about as warm as winter in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And then came the Cincinnati hotel scandal.
Ooh. But he plays for the Giants.
Yeah, but I guess they traveled to Cincinnati.
Sure. Okay.
Right? Where, while they were in Cincinnati, Silver and Jack Boyle met two women who were on a road trip.
Sure. As you do.
As you do. And then they checked them into a hotel under the pretense of being married couples.
Oh. But that's scandalous.
Yes, and the newspapers found out about this, and suddenly they were tabloid gold.
They're just like, wait a minute, those two aren't married.
Yes. They barely avoided criminal charges, but the damage to their reputations was real. Victorian baseball. Come for the ball game, stay for the moral panic.
These two young men might have had relations with women.
They're supposed to be playing baseball. I am appalled.
These women were travelers. You know what that means.
Harlots. So then, on July 5th, Silver lost a game and decided, without warning, to just leave the team.
Okay, sure.
Just no note, no telegram, nothing. Just a puff of silver hair on the wind.
He's Irish goodbyes them, literally.
Pretty much, yes. Yeah, he's German, but...
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, forgot St. Louis. We're not talking Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. His German goodbyes.
His father was born in Prussia, so...
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, he just exits. He leaves. He doesn't say goodbye.
Yes, exactly. The Sporting Life said, quote, "No one should be surprised. He had no friends on the club."
This is basically Kenny Powers.
Pretty much, yeah. German Kenny Powers. He missed 3 weeks and only returned in August, pitching like someone who was told rent was due. And yet, he still threw 410 innings, won 22 games, and finished top 10 in starts and complete games.
Damn.
The Giants staff was so rubber-armed that 3 pitchers handled all but 7 innings of the entire season, and they still finished 8th.
Oof.
Which is just outstanding mediocrity.
Okay.
So, moving on to the next year, now it's 1893, and the baseball gods have decided it's time for a massive rule change.
All right.
Pitchers who had been throwing from 50 feet away since the days when fielders wore gloves made out of disappointment now had to hurl the ball from 60 feet 6 inches away. Which was like asking an archer to start throwing the arrows.
So he has 10 feet and 10 and a half feet added to how far he needs to throw it.
To what he's used to, and he's already been declining at the 50-foot mark. So
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I have his baseball reference up now, and Jesus, he's going downhill. Very few people peak from 20 to 22.
Yes, yeah. So as we're kind of saying here, for most pitchers this was just an adjustment, but for Silver King it was a total disaster. His whole game was built on speed and deception from that weird crossfire angle that he had. And he wasn't just out of his comfort zone now. He was basically asked to pitch from another area code. His first few starts in 1893 with the New York Giants were a train wreck. In just 49 innings, he gave up 58 runs.
What?
Yeah. Which, even by 1890 standards, was like getting repeatedly dunked on by toddlers.
Yeah.
And the Giants had seen enough. They released him faster than a plate of hot oysters in August. That's a weird metaphor. He signed with the Cincinnati Reds, which may have been a desperation move for both parties. Unfortunately, Silver still couldn't adjust to the new distance. He made 15 starts and posted an ERA of 4.89, which for back then was basically the pitching equivalent of just lying down on the mound and letting people bunt around you. You know,
it's an almost 5 ERA in the last century. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, no. And to make matters worse, Cincinnati's newspapers torched him on the way out. One article accused of him running the old con game, basically saying he collected a paycheck while pretending to be the ghost of his former self.
That's just mean.
I know, yeah.
Pretending to be the ghost of his former self? Like, isn't he the ghost of his former self? He's so bad he's not even the ghost. He's pretending to be the ghost who is trying to be his former self.
Yes, yeah. At this point, with 2 leagues dead and owners tightening their salary belts, Silver King found himself a man with too much pride and not enough fastball. When the Reds offered him $1,500, which was a 70% pay cut for the 1894 season, he just said, "You know what? I'm out of here." That's not a direct quote, but that's what he did.
Okay. So he can't, you know, he's basically a dude that was like amazing, who's now in his like still mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
And he's just walking away because nobody's paying him what he thinks he should get paid.
Yeah. And nobody likes him either.
No, this is literally Kenny Powers' career.
Exactly. Yeah. So he walked away from the game, retired back to St. Louis, and went back to bricks, mortar, and probably occasionally muttered the odd curse about Chris Vonder, haha.
Yeah.
But like any good horror movie villain or vintage ball player with one more contact to chase, he came back.
What?
In 1896, Silver made a surprise return to the majors when he was recruited by Scrappy Bill Joyce, the captain of the eternally cursed Washington Senators.
All right, this is total Powers. Now this is the Kenny Powers episode.
Yeah, this is the Mexican League.
This is
Yeah. This is season 2.
The best season of that show. I just got to say.
Yeah.
But regardless, so how many years was he out? Like 3 years? 4 years?
Looks like 2 years. He left in 1894.
Okay, yeah. So he missed 94 and 95.
Yeah.
And he's back for 96.
Yeah. So he joins the Senators. King joined in May and pitched a little relief. And then, boom, he threw another 6-hitter in his first start against his old tormentors, the Pittsburgh Pirates.
He's back.
He's back. And guess what? He wasn't bad. He rattled off 4 straight wins, and the DC papers were losing their minds. Quote, "The King is back. Look at those sprightly pitches." And yes, someone definitely used the word sprightly like they were describing. What's that?
I was about to comment on the word sprightly. Once again, different connotation to that word nowadays.
Yeah.
You're not average. I guarantee the average 20-year-old doesn't know what sprightly means. They would just think of soda pop, including myself. But now I read 1890s newspapers, and so I know it was actually a describing word at one point.
Yes. So anyway, they described him as sprightly, but then fate, ever the cruel mistress, took out her Louisville slugger. On July 21st, against the Cleveland Spiders, a line drive off the bat of Harry Blake hit King's pitching arm and broke it.
Shit.
And just like that, his season was basically over. He tried to come back 5 weeks later, which is really early to come back from a broken arm. Like these days, you know, you gotta have that thing on for 6 weeks at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends where it got him. Like, but like, still, I'm sure there was no rehab assignments.
No, I'm sure there wasn't. They're like, get back out there, Silver.
Guy.
Yeah. So as I said, he tried to come back 5 weeks later, but it was like watching a once great warhorse trying to win the Kentucky Derby on 3 legs and nostalgia. Still, even with a broken arm and general bad luck, he went 10-7 with a 4.09 ERA in 145 innings. For the Senators, that counted as an ace-level performance.
Oof.
Which tells you everything you need to know about the 1896 Senators.
Didn't we talk about they were like 3 seasons away from just disbanding at this point?
Pretty much, yeah. Well, the famous quote about the Senators was always, I believe, first in politics and last in the American League.
Of course.
Or something to that effect.
Yeah, and 1899 would be their last year. But we're in 1896, right?
Well, we just finished 1896.
All right.
And he struggled there. But now, because this is Silver King, we're not done yet. And he came back again in 1897, even though Joyce had been traded and most assumed King was done for good, too. But the Senators brought him back as a third option behind 2 young bucks, Win Mercer and Doc McJames.
Wow.
But
I haven't thought about Win Mercer for a while.
Mm-hmm. I thought you'd like that. That's another podcast alum.
That is another pitcher that was pretty messed up.
Yeah. Anyways, it did not go well. Silver's fastball had vanished like an unpaid bar tab, and by mid-August, the Senators gave him the boot. He finished 6-9 with a 4.79 ERA and in 154 innings. There was some talk of him signing with Baltimore, but nothing ever came of it. And that was it. After 10 seasons, 203 wins, 152 losses, and 3,180 and 2/3 innings pitched, Silver King had officially left the mound. But let's be real. His relationships with teams had shorter shelf life than a bottle of milk in a sunroom. The Washington Times summed him up in a brutal farewell, quote, Silver never entered baseball for the love of the sport or through any sentimental ties, but purely for the revenue derived by his cunning wing and crossfire curves. Translation, the dude only played for a paycheck, which, let's be honest, is a fair reason to do any job where people throw wooden bats and glass bottles at you on the regular.
Yeah, I will say. I mean, yeah. Is that it?
No, I still got a little bit more here. After baseball, King did what he'd always done best outside of the game. He built stuff. He became a successful contractor in St. Louis and raised a family in a big red brick house in the Tower Grove neighborhood, just a mile from where he grew up. And in what might be the most Silver King detail of them all, he never attended another major league game after retiring.
Damn.
He passed away in 1938 at the age of 71 following a surgery for gallstones and appendicitis. He's buried in the new St. Marcus Cemetery in St. Louis. No monuments, no statue, no lingering glory, just a wild, weird, and unforgettable legacy in the dusty pages of 19th century baseball.
What such a weird career just to be like so good for
only about half of it, really.
Yeah, but it was short though. Like he was done by 30.
Yeah.
But ridiculous numbers at certain points here. Like that's what I mean. Like I was getting upset when he was putting up like a 2.69 ERA.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
That is true, and he was just a prick by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it sounded like he was very, very hard to deal with. It seemed like any time something went wrong, he was very quick to blame anyone else that was around him.
Yeah.
Which, as kind of mentioned there, he alienated a lot of his teammates,
For sure. And like, I mean, at 20 in that season where he was probably terrified about getting traded if he didn't win the World Series, he put up probably like one of the best seasons like of all time. There's no doubt. I'm looking at his a 14.7 Baseball Reference WAR in that year.
Yeah.
Like, literally, dude won 15 games for his team just on his own, basically.
Yeah. I think he had another year where it was 13 something, did he not?
Oh yeah. No, that was 1890 with in the Players League.
Oh, in the Players League, right.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Even in the Players League, that 2.69 ERA was still because he pitched so much, and that ERA was really. I think he was leader that year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but in that 1888 season, his WHIP was .87 in 584 innings.
That's insane.
That is absolutely wild. I don't know. That's ridiculous. Obviously, he just didn't give up hits, didn't walk people. If his defense was good, he was going to win the game like that. And then there's bad luck. He got his arm broken, and like he probably lost all his passion playing for Von der Aha or Ahi, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, that's a wild one. I knew Silver King was going to come up because, like, why wouldn't he?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, the game of note, obviously, that led me to look into his career was his no-hitter that he lost. But, yeah, I was amazed to find, how interesting his career was altogether beyond that point.
I'm just going to refer to him as Kenny Powers of the 1890s.
Yeah, he pretty much was. Yeah,
has that break, becomes a substitute teacher, and works his way back to the majors.
I wonder if he had his own Stevie Janowski. That would make this story that much better. Who the fuck are you?
Dude, me and my wife just finished watching that. It's literally I had only watched it one time, and then we watched Righteous Gemstones, and my wife loved Vice Principals, and I was like, okay, I got one for you, and it was great. It was great. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's called Eastbound and Down. Anyways, it's great.
We just morphed into a prestige TV podcast for
absolutely old HBO. They have flip phones. Edsy, that was a great story. Love the Silver King. Excited that's life. That's life back then. How old was he when he died? I'm sorry to make you look at your script again. I think. But,
he was. Let me see. It was 1938, I believe I said there.
He's 70.
Yeah, 71.
Right.
71. I think I said. Let me just double check here.
Anyways, it
doesn't 71. Matter. 71.
Okay. Well, either way, he lived a long, good life, but like his career was, as you mentioned before we started this, short. Well, thanks so much. Tune in a couple weeks. Hopefully, we'll have a new one for you. I got a good one in mind. I'll see if I can write it in time. But until then, you can find us on the internet at Doing Baseball. Check us out there, whether it's Instagram or whatever, Blue Sky, Twitter, whatever. I don't know. We don't really post that much. We should do more. But Edsy, what else can they do? Can they give us a review?
They can give us a review or a rating. And I just want to quickly say they can also go and check out the article by Gregory H. Wolf at saber.org for a more thorough coverage of Silver King's life there. But yeah, if you give us a rating review, whatever platform you're listening to us on, of course, thanks for listening. You can find us on social media at Doing Baseball or at Doing.Baseball. And thank you to Two Loons for giving us a sponsor. Enjoy that responsibly and be of legal drinking age. And I guess until next time, Sean.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Eds.
We were doing the baseball.
Okay. Bye.